All right, let's just get right into it. For pretty much our entire lives, we've been told a story about food, a story about calories and weight loss, and a whole set of rules we're supposed to follow. But what if I told you that those rules, the very foundation of how we think about dieting, are just plain wrong?
And hey, don't just take my word for it. That's a direct quote from Dr. Tim Spector, who happens to be one of the most cited scientists on the planet. Complete nonsense. That's a pretty bold statement, right? It basically flips the script on everything most of us have ever learned about losing weight.
So that's the big question, isn't it? If the old playbook is totally useless, what are the new rules? I mean, how are we supposed to think about food? Well, that's what we're going to get into. Let's break down what the science is really telling us.
Okay, first things first, we have to understand why all that old advice has failed so many of us. This is what you could call the great diet deception.
You know the central myth, the one we've all had drilled into our heads, calories in, calories out. The idea that our bodies are just simple calculators. But the reality, it's so much more complicated than that. In fact, as Dr. Spector points out, there has never been a single long-term study, not one, that proves calorie counting actually works for keeping weight off for good. Our bodies are incredibly adaptive, they're not furnaces.
And the result of following this completely flawed approach? A failure rate that is just staggering. Get this, over 95% of people who go on these super restrictive calorie counting diets end up regaining all the weight. And often, they gain back even more. It's this vicious cycle, and it's all built on a myth.
So why on earth does this myth hang around? Well, it's pretty simple. It's fantastic for business. The focus on calories acts like a giant camouflage. It's a marketing gimmick that lets the food industry sell all sorts of ultra-processed junk food by just slapping a low-calorie or low-fat label on the box. It completely distracts us from what actually matters, the quality of the food itself.
So if counting every single calorie is out, what's in? This is where it gets really fascinating. The answer isn't about what we restrict, it's about what we feed. And it's time to meet this incredibly powerful engine inside of us that for decades we've been completely ignoring.
Say hello to your gut microbiome. It is literally a bustling community of trillions, with a T, of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes all living inside your gut. And scientists are just now realizing it basically functions like a whole new organ we never knew we had.
And just to give you a sense of scale here, if you could scoop up all of these little microbes and put them on a scale, they'd weigh about 3 pounds. That's roughly the same weight as your brain. So yeah, this isn't some minor player. This is a heavyweight contender in your body.
And what does this new organ do? Well, think of it like your body's own personal high-tech chemical factory. These microbes are working 24/7. They're training your immune system, they're producing essential vitamins that you need, they're even creating chemicals like serotonin that regulate your mood. They are absolutely critical to how our bodies work, how we feel, everything.
And if you want to see just how powerful these little guys are, you don't have to look any further than Dr. Spector's own research on identical twins. We're talking about people with the exact same DNA, yet one can develop a disease while the other stays perfectly healthy. The key difference between them? You guessed it. They're gut microbes. That's how profound their impact is.
Okay, so we're all on board. The microbiome is a huge deal. But what do we do about it? How do we take care of this inner pharmacy? Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple. And it all comes down to one core idea.
30. According to all the research, that's the magic number. The goal is to try and eat 30 different types of plants every single week. And why 30? Well, because different microbes like to eat different things. So the more variety you give them, the more diverse and healthy and strong your gut community becomes.
Now, before you start panicking and thinking 30, there's no way, it's not nearly as daunting as it sounds. We're not talking about eating 30 giant salads a week. The term plant is really broad here. That handful of nuts you snack on, that's 1. The herbs and spices you throw in your sauce, that's 2 more. Even your morning coffee or tea counts towards your total. It's all about adding these small bits of variety. A simple chili can have beans, tomatoes, onions, garlic, and spices. That's 5 right there. See? It adds up way faster than you think. And speaking of variety, that's where color comes in. You know, all those vibrant colors you see in berries and dark leafy greens, and even in things like dark chocolate, they come from these amazing defense chemicals called polyphenols. And as Dr. Spector calls them, these things are like rocket fuel for your gut microbes. They absolutely love them.
All right, so now that we have the new playbook, let's circle back and bust a few more of those old-school myths that are probably still floating around on the menu.
So let's hit these real quick. Myth number 1, you can exercise your way out of a bad diet. Nope. Diet is the key for initial weight loss. Exercise is amazing for maintaining it. Next up, vitamin supplements. For most of us with a pretty varied diet, they're a total waste of money. And finally, diet drinks. Not a healthy swap. Those artificial sweeteners can actually mess with your gut microbes.
And this brings us to our last point, which is maybe the most important idea of all. This is not about a temporary diet. This is about building a whole new way of thinking about food for life.
The name of the game here is sustainability. You have to pick changes that you can actually stick with, not for a week or a month, but for the long haul. This is all about building a new, positive relationship with food, not fighting some short-term battle you're destined to lose.
And you know, the best part is that this new relationship isn't about restriction. It's not about banning your favorite foods. It's actually the total opposite. It's about broadening your horizons, adding more variety, and learning to really enjoy food again by focusing on quality that makes you feel amazing from the inside out.
So, I'll just leave you with this one simple question. Forget about the calories. Forget about restriction. Just for today, think about this. What is one new plant you can add to your plate to give your inner pharmacy the fuel it needs to really thrive?